Hi, this is Heather Lockett, and these are Lasting Conversations. I am in the studio today with a very, very dear old friend of mine, Joe Porter. Hi, Joe.
Hello, Heather.
Hello, hello. I am so happy that you're here. And earlier today, we were at a group at your venue called the Brewhouse Gallery, and it was a morning networking group. But that networking group, Lake Park at Business, or Business at Breakfast, whatever it's really called, it's actually so much more than networking. It's family, and people share from their hearts. And as we know, this is what this show is all about. And one of the things that some of us were sharing is the I don't know, or the leaps of faith. And you, and as far as I've known you in 25, 6, 7 years, a long time, this is your go-to. It's not even your mantra. It's just who you are. You jump in wholeheartedly. So you are the owner or co-owner of the Brewhouse Gallery in Lake Park, Florida, which is a music venue. It's an art venue, but it mostly brings people together. And you started it 9 years ago with your son, AJ. But we're going to start even before that, because of your heart, and originally from Ohio, you have found your way doing extraordinary things. And for those who are not on the camera, you're not owning that as of yet. And we're going to do that today. We're owning Joe Brockman Porter and the extraordinary things that you do, because you help bring things to life, and including your son, AJ, who wouldn't be here had it not been for you. And so I could ask you where you might want to start. And maybe we will work backwards a little bit, and we'll start with the brew house, because it was born of necessity, as your son is an artist, and he's a quadriplegic artist. Mm-hmm. And so running the art circuits got exhausting, but really you wanted to create a space. And you'll say him, but I know that it was you too, where he could showcase his art, and local artists could brew ideas and brew amazing things, and brew coffee, and now you brew beer. But you're brewing community, and you're literally revitalizing a whole downtown, a little village of Lake Park, Florida. So start from you're in your kitchen of your old house that AJ lives in now. Mm-hmm. And here was this idea, brewing. Walk us through that.
To be honest with you, I was going to tell you that it is not my passion. AJ, and making his life as quality as it could be, is really the passion, is what most of us do as moms. So when he, like I say, he graduated from high school, went to Digital Media Arts College, figured out that being in the wheelchair, he could work the computer really well. And so he learned how to create art on the computer digitally, which is at that time not something that a lot of artists did. Now it's very common to see that going on. And so he said, Mom, I want to be an artist. I'm tired of just having to do the corporate stuff where you make the envelopes and the logos and
designing them
and having to do what the customer wanted as opposed to what
on
he
CAD
wanted to do.
Yeah, right.
So he said, I have figured a way to do this. And so he has created all of this art on the computer with literally one finger, because that's really all that he had at the time. And so I said, okay, let's go for it. And so we did. And there was a lot of times at home we would just sit and figure out how to do it. And we framed, and I learned how to frame. He told me how to do everything. And it was a community as well, though. So if it wasn't for a lot of my friends, we would sit and make pieces up at night. So we went and we participated in Sunfest and all of the art places, art shows that were around. And that Delray was one of them that we did. That was like an end point for me when it was raining. It was so raining, and actually Martha was with me and helping me. And you get there so early, and by the time you've got everything set up, you're really tired, and the customers haven't even come there yet. So we did that for the longest time. I think about 2 years that we did that. And then AJ said, after we had been to Sunfest, said, you know what? When people, drink beer and have a good time out, they seem to appreciate art a little bit more. So that's when he decided he wanted to open an art gallery. An art gallery, he had some contacts that we'd made through the art business. And he said, I want to have it. So originally, this crazy story that a lot of people don't know is that it was going to be called Paints and Pies. They were going to do pies. And then it figured out that, wait a minute, I think I should sell beer and wine and sodas and make it a gathering place where they could brew ideas, brew conversations, brew friends, brew coffee, brew beer. So we found a place in Lake Park that was affordable for us, which was really twice the amount of square footage that we really needed. But we went in with both feet, and that was 9 years ago in January of 2014. Mm-hmm. And, with the help of friends, his dad, a lot of people that really knew what was going on, and AJ really, he orchestrated the whole thing as far as the design. And so we opened that in May of 2014.
Well, and that's just it. There was this vision, and he had a very, very clear vision. And being in other communities in the hometown, where how it landed finally in this little place called Lake Park that had this main street called Park Avenue, but that there was an opening to literally create an artist's area. So it was more than you're going to find the typical art studio place, because I remember that you were kind of bumping into some closed doors, as a matter of fact, with bureaucracy and the space and the cost, and you're going to do what? And everything led to this amazing venue that then has grown and grown. But keep on going, because it just, the whole story has morphed and blossomed.
Yeah, and it was really quite by accident. I knew that we had a small place, and you can't sell art, you can't do this, you can't do that. And so I just found this place. And a lot of people still to this day say, where's Lake Park? Right. And AJ even said, where's Lake Park? Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of at least letting people know where it's at. You have put it on the map.
You have literally put that town on the map, and it's 100 years old. It's called Kelsey City. I would sort of vote bring it back to Kelsey City, but it's just north of West Palm and south of Palm Beach Gardens and North Palm Beach. So it's sandwiched in, but it's over 100 years old. So there's a long history there, but keep on going.
Yeah, they're celebrating their 100th anniversary this year. And so we did, we ran it for a while, actually a couple years. And again, I had a lot of friends that were doing that. We did really well. And one of the concepts that AJ came up with is that we rent the wall space. And so if we rent the wall space, then that artist gets 100% of what they sell. Mm-hmm. So they have confidence in themselves. They have their own openings. We help them with some artist openings and stuff. They come in and they talk a little bit about their art.
So you were changing even the concept of what art galleries usually do by having the artist, whether well-known or beginners, basically rent a square of real estate. So that helps offset rent and your costs. But then you're not getting into commissions. You're not getting into... It's their sale, period.
It is their sale. Yeah. And typically in an art gallery, they, number one, will take a percentage up to 50%. And number two, they won't let the person put any kind of information out on how to get in touch with them if they're not even in. And we don't do that. We will highlight them whenever they come in, and we sell their artwork for them, and customer pays the taxes. And then at the end of the month, we give them a check, and it's very rewarding. Very rewarding for him. And so AJ still has a few of his pieces there, and we ask him to stay for 3 months because it takes a little bit of time to hang everything. And then if somebody comes in and said, oh man, I was really wanting that piece of art, we keep there and we refer and say, here, call him up. So it worked out really well, and it's still working to this day. So we're still an art gallery. And 2 years ago, right in the middle of the pandemic, we decided to open a craft beer bar. And one of the guys who was AJ's Boy Scout leader early on, John, he was a home brewer for years. And we approached him and said, would you brew beer for us? And so now we're a little 3-barrel system that does not distribute. You've got to come to Brewhouse to get it. And it's called Kelsey City Brewing Company, named after Kelsey City. A lot of the beers that we have are named after Kelsey City and anything that was there that at the time that it was being created 100 years ago.
Right. So it's such a fun little spot, and the music and the musicians that come out are extraordinary. Some occasionally on an open mic night, there are some beginners just doing their thing, but who walks in the door, I think our ears would just peel back, because they've had these rich histories, and they want to just still come and play and do their thing and jam and wail. And it's just places like yours, and I'm about to go to Nashville. You're about to go up to that national area for your parents' 80th wedding anniversary, where there are musicians. There's fun, and there's history, and there's creativity, and life.
Absolutely.
And life. Yeah. So let's go to that. So you have an older son, Skip, who has children, and then you have AJ, who's Adam Jr. And so when you were talking about AJ and the Boy Scouts and this and this, the context of that is part of what is this storyline. And as a mom, you were just Mama Bear, and you literally have kept him alive you've been a nurse by training. And so where doctors had said, so sorry, but there's really only a few years. Now he's in his 30s and he's a dad. But tell us about those days and where your fortitude came from, that literally you'd have to physically, bang on his back or do the massage or keep up medically, because this has been very, very serious. That said, all the while you're living life. So did roller hockey. There's a video of the roller hockey, which is amazing. There's the Boy Scouts. There's the clubs. The speaking engagements, the mentoring of other kids. So that fortitude, where did all that come from?
It came from AJ, really. I mean, he's always been an old soul. He was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. It had never been in our family at all. It's one of those autosomal recessive. It's just 1 in 18 people in a room are going to have it, and he just ended up getting it. He got 2 bad genes, and we were shocked that he had it. He just stopped meeting motor milestones. And it was like, well, okay, now what do we do? And he would sit and just watch people. And I think that he just became a different kind of kid that was not up and running around. And so we put him in school. He was smart. He was in a wheelchair by the time he was 2 years old, and he's been in that because he would learn how to drive the thing. We would put him on a little big wheel, and we put his shoes in there, and we stapled or nailed his shoes to there to keep his exercising and stuff. And then he learned how to work that big wheel.
So for a while, could he motor his legs, his little legs?
He would do a little bit. There was a little Tykes truck or a horse, and he would kind of move along a little bit on that, but really not. He never did bear weight on his legs and stuff. So, and then around 2, a little bit after that, he ended up getting RSV, which is really common, and we thought we were going to lose him at that time. He was at St. Mary's. There was a doctor there that actually saved him. And
it's a respiratory.
And then from then on, there were some times where I think there was like 6 pneumonias in a year, and he had scoliosis. And we went over to, when he was 13 years old, he went over to the Shriners, and the Shriners stabilized his back. So he's got a rod in his back. So thank goodness the Shriners helped, because he's been really, really good since then. And we have little bouts of stuff. He doesn't cough very well. He doesn't have a lot of oomph to get it out. So we do very cautiously watch him whenever he gets a cold or anything. But he was just driven. He said early on when he was in camp, "Mom, I think I could work at the pool." And it's like, okay, AJ, how are you going to work at the pool? He said, "I can be the deck monitor. I can tell them, that they need to stop running."
You blow a whistle
and blow a whistle. Yeah. So that's one of the first things he did. And then after that, he'd gone to a camp thing, and that's when he ended up watching them do roller hockey and stuff. And he said, Mom, I came home, I can play hockey. And it's like, AJ, how are you going to play hockey? And he said, I can be the goalie. And so we talked one of the guys that was running the Palm Beach Gardens hockey rink into letting him play hockey, and we got him all fixed up with some stuff. And by the second year that he was playing, he was one of the first ones they wanted, because the kids couldn't figure out how to put the puck up over, because we had a little barrier at the bottom where the wheelchair was, and they had a really hard time getting it into the net.
It's so funny. It's hilarious too. It's hilarious and it's joyful, and Yankee ingenuity to build this thing. Because also thinking back to that time frame, there really wasn't a lot for handicap access, ramps, let alone sports, going to a beach. None of that was even available. Having wheelchairs have the bigger wheels to do these things, so that you were also part of a family that were pioneering to put forward what is the can do. What is the can do? And of course, we're going to play some sports. Well, let's figure this out. And so, is that on YouTube, or was that a personal thing, or somewhere on Facebook, of AJ with the City of Palm Beach Gardens playing goalie with his rig? It was just because using the motorized and his finger to motorize the chair. Yeah,
it was a documentary that they ended up doing, because it was kind of, not a lot of kids had done that. There had been kids playing baseball and stuff with the assistants, but they just, unfortunately, the town was willing to go ahead and go with it. And, you always worry about insurances and people kind of get in your way to make it not happen. And, if I look back, as a mom, you just don't say no. You try to do whatever you can to keep things going, and you have to. And when your back is against the wall and you don't really have a choice but to go forward, that's pretty much what you do. And so to this day, AJ has called me his success enabler.
I've heard him say that in speeches.
That's how he
gets me every time. You are the success enabler.
Only because I kept saying yes and didn't say no to any of the things most of the time.
But you realize how important that is, Joe. And this is going to be great for the show and for a lot of people to hear, because there are many of us that didn't come from that message. No was always the message, and cannot was the mantra.
True.
So you have flipped that very notion to say, well, there is no sky. Forget sky's the limit. There is not even sky.
Yep.
Right?
And to the point where he's so goal oriented, and I wish that there were a lot of other kids that were that way. But he's driven, like you say. He knew he wanted to be a dad, and he's a dad, and he loves it. So mom's left doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's really great. So he found love, and love found him, and he's a stepdad, and through modern medicine and technology and a lot of prayers and angels. Yep. He is an earth angel. Oh, he's totally an earth angel. And now he's a dad of a beautiful daughter. And
never thought he was ever going to have that. He never thought, and I think that's why he kind of threw himself always into what he was doing. And then he met Stephanie, and things totally turned around for him. And it's just been a great life for him. I think if there's anybody that could say, when we look at each other and we live each day, I think that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned from him, is that you really do need to live each day, because you just don't get tomorrow. And he has just done so much that I don't think any of us are getting out of here alive. So live each day.
Live each day. And did you have those moments where, and I've known you enough to know that he has had ebbs and flows physically and emotionally, and the two of you, has not been easy raising a wheelchair-bound person, and the lifting and the showering and the bathing, it takes a lot. And but did you have those moments where you weren't sure if there was a tomorrow with this young guy? Many
times, really, when he'd be in the hospital. And even for me,
Because how was your own health in all of this, too?
Yeah, I mean, and there was a lot. Owning a business is a big responsibility. And
Right.
then when we had purchased we rented the brew house, then soon after that, the owner, Sue Ellen Mosler, who owned the building, put the building up for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And we had done a really good job, I think, with music. AJ had some really good connections. We were in the music, and the musicians loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, what happens if we just run the Kelsey Theater and make
There's a theater, and then there's a whole block full of nifty little storefronts.
Mm-hmm.
So you took on being
being a landlord.
A mogul. A real estate mogul.
That's where I thought I was going to lose it, because
Yeah.
it was a lot of work. We were there a lot at night. We were also running brew house. We were landlords for all the tenants, and AJ was really instrumental in actually getting a lot of the tenants that are in there now, and they're still 100% rented right now, other than the Kelsey right now. After COVID, it got shut down because they wouldn't let anybody in with theaters, and so we closed that down.
It took a big hit, yeah.
It took a big hit, yeah. But it worked out okay, because I was getting to, if Stephanie wouldn't come along, I don't know how things would have turned out, though. It was really a lot.
It gets exhausting. And again, for families who are walking this walk, do you have pearls or nuggets for them while they're on this journey, or they've received a diagnosis somehow?
I would just say, it's a blow, but you just keep moving forward. You don't have a choice but to keep moving forward, and you really should try to do the best that you can for your kid, because they're here, or any individual that happened to them. You live day to day and try to look at it as much positive as you can, and let them live.
Well, and speaking of which, he has, and you have gone with him, public speaking engagements. There's a portrait of the Obama family that has been at the White House. And so he's made national news. You have made national news. And so when we're saying, the dark hours when you're not feeling well or you're feeling a little bit lost, also, my God, blossom into these extraordinary and well-recognized, just for the art itself. Not art, well, because he's a guy in a wheelchair. These are what the abilities are. And so many of my guests have worked with folks with neurological differences or depressive issues or whatever. And we're all really talking about, but what's behind that to let that shine forward. And so AJ is an accomplished public speaker. I think he's having a hard time now getting with mobility and things. But tell us some of those stories, as a matter of fact. Like, how do you get to have a painting in the New York Times front page of the art section, and it's going to the White House? I mean,
again, you shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
You said, Mom, how am I going to get recognition? What would I do? Well, if I could make a portrait for the president, that would probably get something going. And so we had a person that was involved with a political committee that could get us in front of someone that would get us an interview, or at least to get a meeting with President Obama. And so he made a portrait of the first family with the dog that they had just gotten. And so in Delray, when he was at the tennis center, we had an opportunity to meet him. And he presented him with this huge, I think it was like 24 by 36 piece of artwork that had the first family on it. And we have a signed little promo of it that he signed for us. But they told us that, well, I don't know whether it's not going to get back to the White House, because we don't put a lot of things on Air Force One. We don't know whether or not they have to be inspected. And that Sunday after, we saw it come off of Air Force One, and it made it to the New York Times most photographed things in the year, or something.
That's right.
Like
and
that.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Not only did it make it for that Sunday paper, but for the year's recap.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Now we're at the Goosebumps part of the show. I love it.
That was pretty cool.
That's spectacular. Yeah.
The other thing he has, if you go to Palm Beach Gardens in their chambers, their commission chambers, he created the tree. Mm-hmm. And there's like it took it was a big thing. Like it fills a whole wall, like 10 foot by 8 foot.
The big banyan that represents Tropic Gardens.
That's exactly right.
Right.
So they commissioned him to do it, and he put it in there. So I think it's still there to this day.
Yeah. So everybody who can watch online or see it. So I'm going to switch gears and go to motorcycles, because we're talking about AJ and his passion, but you have your own. And so when you just hit the road and put wind in your hair, I want to hear about your ride.
It's great. I've been riding since '05. There was a neighbor that just got me into it, and that was my release, because I ended up having some break from AJ when I first was on my own and not with his dad anymore. And it's like, well, I've always wanted to do that. And so since '05, I've been riding a motorcycle, and I still to this day love getting away, because I really can just forget all about it. So work, you just are more focused on having a good time, watching the road, making sure that nobody gets in front of you that you don't want in there. And so it's a good release and it's something I really enjoy doing with my husband.
Well, and that you drive around the back roads. So there's some countryside, and you find the little beer halls and honky tonks and fishing points and meet some amazing people.
Amazing people. We've actually took the auto train and went up to and took the coast all the way down one year. One of these days, there's going to be a little bit more of that. So
that's great. Yeah. That's great. Well, and you are remarried to this extraordinary man named Millard, and the two of you were just over in Ireland and enjoying your own fruits, right?
Yep.
You're trying to make that blend be part of your time. Like, you have been a busy woman for a very, very long time.
Yep.
And now to have fresh love and exploration, and your parents who are whip smart, and I can probably guess where you get your tenacity, because they are how old? As if they've been together, married for 80 years.
Actually 70 years.
Oh, 70 years.
70. Yeah, but
okay.
They're in there. Otherwise, they hadn't got married as kids. So, Dad's 92, and Mom will soon be 90.
Wow. That's really, really, really beautiful. Yeah. And so your brew house, what is it that you see brewing right now?
Do you really want to know?
You share what you like or don't, and that's okay too.
Yeah, it's been...
Because there are helpers out there.
Yeah,
so
and it's been 9 years.
Something you'd really, really like to say.
I would really love to find somebody with some new energy, kind of had the same kind of passion that AJ had, give an opportunity to some other people to come in and run a business, get creative with it. Like I say, I'm soon to be 70, so I think it's about time. I was a nurse, I was a pharmaceutical rep, I've now been a business owner. I think it's time to pass it on to somebody else, and I'd love to find somebody that would take it over. We'd even help them.
Well, I know you would, and there'd be a huge community of people saying, it's going to feel right? You're not going to robot the place. And there is a huge opportunity for someone to see the big vision of that whole block and the theater itself and the kismet. There's always been this beautiful, and I say this word often, but this kismet and synergy with the people that can come in there. And there's really all age ranges. And whether you're single or not, you just are comfortable to come in and listen to some good music, have some coffee, have a root beer float, or have some of the best local microbrews ever. And it's a delightful spot. And the town is changing. But within that, yes, you get to have your fun. Right. And I've seen you do have fun. You know how to kick it up. You do. But if another chapter is now time for you to pass the baton, I can see that.
I think it is.
To the next right person or group, to the next right group.
Absolutely.
And I think with that, I want to play music. I don't have any, but I hear music in my head. And maybe we'll patch something in. But while we're here, I I think just round back to AJ for a second and the whole muscular dystrophy, because you were all very involved with various charitable groups. Oh, and the service dogs, the best friends. So if you want to speak to some folks about that piece of it in terms of support and where people can find support, and whether it's having your dog help or pets. And I could even ask you if you have thoughts on people who have pretend pets versus, no, seriously, don't park in the parking handicap spot if you're not really handicapped. I've seen you go off on that.
Oh, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. But so the different organizations, how people might want to get involved, where are the helpers to help the families?
Well, AJ was involved with muscular dystrophy early on. We were on the telethon when Channel 12 did the telethon for the longest time. He was an ambassador at one point in time, early on when he was small. He's always been involved in something, that whether it be, he went to Alamanda Elementary School, and he was one of the first kids that was there that was mainstreamed, and that was something that they really didn't do at that time. But we championed to make sure that he was not pigeonholed into a place where he couldn't totally express himself and learn, and they provided an aid. It was wonderful. The public school system has been great for special needs kids, for sure. And then we were involved with muscular dystrophy. We were involved with Canine Companions for Independence. So he ended, and like I say, I already talked about the Shriners, and the Shriners are actually the ones that diagnosed him, which was really crazy.
Wow, okay.
It was a Shriner physician that did it, because we really didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And then they referred us to muscular dystrophy, and the Miami people confirmed it. But AJ said, I'd like to have a service dog, because then that way people would come up to him. And it really does make a difference if a kid is in a wheelchair or has a special need, other autistic. They provide hearing dogs, they provide helper dogs, they provide just a lot of different things. There was a girl in our class that was a speech therapist, and so the dog helped these kids learn how to speak and stuff, and she would use it as part of the curriculum. So we were able to get 2 service dogs from Canine Companions for Independence, and they have since passed on, but they were terrific, and I highly recommend that organization to really break the ice for kids to be able to have the dog with them at school. We didn't end up taking Larry or Dre a lot of times to school because he had an aide. That was going to be another thing for the aide to take care of. But when we were in situations, he did take the dog down to college with him, and it would learn how. It knew how to open. They knew how to open doors. They knew how to go pick up things for him. And I think most of all, at one point in time, whenever I was across the room from him at night, the dog would come and get me. Both of them learned to come and get me. Then AJ would wake up and say, Dre, go get Mom. And next thing I know, there's a little dog at the bed by me. So I knew that it was time to get up if I didn't hear him. So those are some things that are really, really helpful. And I think, just using your community, get out there in the community. And schools have been great. I think that'd be it, really.
Good.
Anything else?
That's good. Yeah. And just tell people to keep on going.
Keep on going.
And fly, and there is no limit.
Yeah, I mean, I've questioned myself a lot of times. It's like, well, what am I going to do? I mean, you really, you feel sometimes stuck, but once you pass over that stuck part, everything seems to open up again. So I think everybody kind of feels that. There's a little bit of a hesitation, and you feel like, and then once you do it, things get better.
It sure does, yeah. And things get better. Because the horizon is vast. Joe Porter, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Heather.
I really, really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Please be sure to like, follow, review, and share this podcast. And if you would like to be part of the conversations, send emails to podcasts@lastingconversations.com and find us on Facebook at Lasting Conversations. This is Lasting Conversations. We get to the heart of everything.